I'm Eric Novak, and coming up on this report, I'm going to take a look at the all-new 2017 Chevrolet Bolt, the highly anticipated long-range battery electric vehicle. If you follow electric cars, you know the history of how it's evolved over the past several years. When the first electric vehicles we saw in the market, such as the i-MiEV from Mitsubishi and the Nissan Leaf came out, they proved themselves to be viable vehicles in terms of performance and capacity, but they were certainly lacking when it came to overall range. People talk about range anxiety. Why would I buy one if I can't go more than 60 miles or 100 kilometers without having to recharge? We saw the evolution of electric cars continue to grow, and as Tesla began to launch their Model S variants and their Model X, we began to see how electric vehicles can indeed be long range, 400 kilometers and then some with range. However, with Teslas, there came a higher price. They were luxury vehicles that, while popular, certainly weren't accessible to the mass market. Well, when Tesla said they're going to build a third generation vehicle, the Model 3, and they were going to put it somewhere in the mid $30,000 range after incentives and have at least 200 miles of range, other automakers took notice. I was at the Detroit Auto Show a couple of years ago when they launched the second generation Chevrolet Volt, and they surprised us by putting a new concept together called the Bolt. It would be a 200-mile EV with a price in the low to mid 30s, basically matching up against the Tesla Model 3. Move forward 6 weeks later, and at Media Day at the Toronto Auto Show, when they announced that this concept that they rolled out in Detroit is now going to be a production unit, and shortly thereafter, we're here now in March 2017, and here I am standing beside a for-sale production model of the Chevrolet Bolt EV. It is rated at 383 kilometers or over 200 miles of range, and it's an interesting vehicle that I'm excited to show you. Let's take a look. From a vehicle classification standpoint, the Chevrolet Bolt is seen as a compact crossover, and you can see that look. It's not a sedan, it's a 5-door with a hatch on it. Pretty basic design, and I think that's one of the key elements of making this more mainstream, is not designing something that is too cutting edge, too out there. A new Toyota Prius design, for example, or maybe an earlier Nissan Leaf, which really stands out as distinctive and different. Well, this has a much different powertrain. The exterior design, to appeal to the masses, should look a little bit more mainstream, and it generally appears that way. There's not too many unique, distinctive features on this vehicle that would identify it as an electric vehicle. I mean, there are low rolling resistance tires, but you wouldn't necessarily know that. There's obviously unique badging, and of course in the front, with there being a lack of an internal combustion engine, there's no need for air intake, so the front design is solid versus having a grille. It's kind of the same thing you see on the Volt, but overall it's a pretty generic and mainstream exterior design on the Bolt. One of the advantages of designing an electric vehicle as such right from the very early design concept stages is you get to figure out where's the optimal placement for things such as batteries. With something like the Ford Focus EV, for example, they took a regular Focus, made it electrified, but then they wound up taking all the cargo space in the rear hatch for the battery, and then you could basically put a bag of groceries in there, and that's about it. With the Volt, though, however, they've done a pretty decent job. Since the batteries are placed flat along the lower end of the car, the cargo space is not too bad. It's over about 14 cubic feet with the back hatch and the seats up. There's actually, you can have options where you can have it sort of 2-layered. It's a little bit deeper. So if you want to have almost a hidden compartment or something along those lines. If you took the second row seats and folded them down, you'd be over 43 cubic feet of space, which is pretty good for a vehicle of this type. The actual taillights are also mounted on the hatch to sort of optimize the width of entry to get cargo items in. So it's pretty good on the back and not bad for just everyday living too. there's not too much exterior difference on the Bolt from, say, a regular car, but there's an awful lot of difference on the interior in terms of your controls and your readouts and information that you have available to you. The center stack visual screen, it's a large LED screen, and there is a host of information on here. Certainly with respect to your charging ability, you have a lot of information with respect to the type of charge you're receiving. If you want information on how you can power up the charge, if you want to set it to a higher amperage, you can time it for a later charge. Now, there's one thing about this Bolt that I actually really don't like, and that's with respect to what's missing here, and that is built-in Navi. There is no ability at any trim level to put in a built-in navigation GPS system. Now, you can have this connected. It is fully compatible with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and yes, you can get navigation with that, but I don't like that. And the main reason why is to do so, essentially, you're using your data as part of a roaming package on your mobile phone. You can certainly use OnStar and have 4G LTE connectivity in this vehicle, but that too is an additional subscription cost. You see, here in Canada, where I'm based, data rates are not cheap, and so I don't like the fact that if I wanted to use this vehicle to go on a road trip and I needed turn-by-turn directions, I'm basically using up data, and that can run up a bit of a charge. Not something I'm very fond of, and I certainly would hope that as updates to this Bolt happen, they might consider at least making it available. It may not necessarily be a mandatory thing or available at all trim levels, but make it available to someone who wants it. Another good feature, of course, on this interior is the Regen one pedal or one pedal driving. Here on the left side of the wheel, behind where you might see paddle shifters in some of the vehicles, is a button. It is a Regen button. It basically does the same thing as low gear or heavy regenerative braking with your foot pedal, and if you learn how to use it and basically prepare, you can essentially time it and come to a full stop just by pressing the Regen paddle by itself. Put it into low gear to maximize the regenerative function, and you have a vehicle that will certainly extend the range just by the using of the Regen braking. And it's something kind of neat, because to think you can drive without ever touching the brake pedal is something different. It takes a bit of getting used to, but it's quite an impressive and interesting feature overall. If you want to compare the Chevy Bolt to its cousin, the Volt, one of the things that has to be mentioned is the second row seating capacity. The original Volt was a 4-seater. With the second generation, they kind of made it a 5th-seater by putting a sort of a hump seat over top of the battery, which runs in a T shape down the middle. At least here with the Bolt, with the battery placement flat across the bottom of the vehicle, there's ample room to put 3 individuals across in the back. It's actually quite comfortable, and it certainly is a big difference, because now you legitimately have a Chevrolet electric vehicle that seats 5 comfortably. So one of the questions I get asked the most when it comes to electric vehicles is, what's it like to drive? Well, you know what? It's pretty normal. In fact, in some respects, I might say it's even a bit better than normal, because with an electric car, unlike an internal combustion engine where you've got to figure out where the optimum torque is in RPMs, you got to ramp up that torque curve. Here with an electric vehicle, you get all the torque right off the bat, right at 0 RPM. And in this case, you're getting more than, I believe it's 260 pound-feet of torque with this Chevrolet Bolt. So it's just a really normal drive. It handles well. There's nothing different. This is not a golf cart that some people somehow believe it must be if it's electric. This is a normal functioning car that actually is a lot more peppier than most people would give it credit for. And it's really a lot of fun. I actually, in a lot of respects, enjoy driving these more than some of the internal combustion engines I get to drive. There's a lot to like about the 2017 Chevrolet Bolt. You gotta love the extended range capabilities now that this vehicle offers. You can't complain about the price considering where we've been with longer range electric vehicles in the past. And overall design, functionality, it is a winner. It's not perfect. As an electric car, it's great, but there are things with the design overall that may not make it a highly popular mainstream car. I really think they need to add GPS or navigation as at least a trim option in this vehicle. To do without it, I think eliminates a lot of people who just don't want to be connected to their Apple or their Android. And hey, if you forget your cable at home and it's not viable, add it as a basic or an upgraded feature. I think that will make a big improvement. And some of the overall functionality in terms of cargo, hopefully we'll get bigger with. I like it as a compact crossover, but maybe we can extend it a little bit, maybe to make it a midsize. You might even have more of a winner here. I really like where we're going with this, and the future looks bright if this is some of the progress we're seeing with electric vehicles overall. That's it for this review. For EnviroDad.com, I'm Eric Novak. Thanks for watching. There's plenty of ways for you to keep connected with me, so check out some of my social media links, suggested videos, and I'd really love it if you subscribe to my YouTube channel.